Hey there YouTube, this is Rijuta from Keep Calm and Read All and welcome to my channel Keep Calm and Read All. Today we're going to talk about The Ministry of Utmost Happiness by Arundhati Roy. Now, this is like my most anticipated release of 2017, and when I heard that Arundhati Roy was releasing a new work of fiction, I was like, yay, finally. I was like, oh God, thank God, like finally I get to read another work of fiction by Arundhati Roy. I mean, the last time I read any work of her, I was like some 14 to 15 years old, I think, and The God of Small Things is still one of my favorite Indian classics. And when I heard that she is going to write another work of fiction, I was like, ah, please, please, please let me just read it. I was just thinking that, please just let me read it. And when I did read it, I was like, this is good. I really like this. I, in fact, like marathoned the work in like one sitting. I read it all through the night, and I was like, yes, I am very happy with what I read in the novel. So, what I think I really liked about the novel was the fact that she talked about the various unaccounted characters, the characters from the margins of the society. Like she begins with a transgender character, and then she goes on to talk about the various characters who basically inhabit the fringe of the society and who are looking outside in to the society, basically fringe watching, if you will. And that is what I think is the strongest point of this novel, this talking from the margins, which I think she has done very well. The second thing that I liked in the novel was the various ideas or the various references of nonfiction that she has done in this work. Basically, there are a lot of reports, a lot of newspaper articles, a lot of case studies, which basically, from a narrative point of view, they basically bring the story to a halt. But from an overall perspective of reading the novel, I think they are very important to the narrative of the novel, simply because while they bring a stumbling block, or they basically stumble the narrative, and yet when you get to the end of the narrative, you're like, okay, it makes sense. This, everything over here makes sense. So yeah, that's what I really liked. Even though I think like she included the nonfiction because she has been working with nonfiction for a while now, and she has been involved in various causes, in various activities, and she has basically taken that and put in the in this novel. And I think that those points, those works of instances of nonfiction actually are her strongest points in this novel as well. The other thing that I really liked was the way she talked about the Kashmiri conflict and the way she handled that by putting these various characters, like, juxtaposing the non-fiction and the fiction in order to show you this representation, this slice of contemporary Indian society, this slice of contemporary Indian politics. And I think she triumphed brilliantly here, simply because she was able to marry both fiction and non-fiction in the way that would most appeal to a reader, in a way that would engage the reader's attention and her empathy as well. And that, I think, is the triumph of this novel. I'm not going to go into the details of the character or the storyline. I would leave it to you to discover, because it's simply too engaging for me to talk about, like what happens in the beginning, what happens to the transgender character, or what exactly is happening in the Kashmir riots. I will just leave you to discover it for yourself. What I would say is that keep with the narrative, because when you come to these non-fiction instances, you might not want to stay there. You might want to like skip or maybe stop. But I would really ask you to keep with it, to persevere, simply because in the end, trust me, in the end, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. There are a few things that I wish that she could have done a little better. The first, of course, was the idea of the transgender body, which I think she could have talked about a little more. Because it seems that she talked about it a little in the beginning, when the character was trying to find an identity for herself, but then it felt like she basically moved on to the other points of the narrative, and it sort of got sidelined, or it sort of got neglected in the process. I wish she could have talked a little more about it. because she talked about the idea of the transgender body as a site of war, and I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to read more about it. The problems associated with it, the triumphs associated with it. I basically wanted to know a little more about it. The second thing, I wish that she could have reined in a little bit about Indian politics, because uh, at a certain point I just felt that, okay, this is getting a little too out of hand. That's what I felt. And I was like, okay, when I was a little glad when she actually stopped and moved on to the actual storyline. But other than that, I think Ministry of Utmost Happiness, in terms of its writing style, in terms of the way it touched upon different ideas of contemporary Indian society, touched upon the various issues of contemporary Indian society, the way it treated the content was as good as The God of Small Things. And I personally would recommend that you read this book, because it is a very, very nuanced representation, and at times very gripping and in your face representation of the problems that are there in the Indian society. So yeah, my rating of this book would be around 4 out of 5, simply because I enjoyed it a lot. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything in there was very highly enjoyable to read, and I would recommend that you give this a try as well. So yeah, if you liked my video, please subscribe to my channel, Keep Calm and Read All. And thanks for watching. See ya.